Hello again, welcome to Glenfast Games, and the kind of, I guess it's a playthrough of Might and Magic, Book 1, The Secrets of the Inner Sanctum, from 1986 by New World Computing, their first game, or the guy who wrote this game. Actually, if I remember correctly, created the whole company just to publish this game, because I think he tried to show it around to other publishers at the time, but nobody took the chance, so he decided to do it himself. This is yet another unscripted, meandering, rambling narration, because I find that especially this game with its very unscripted approach to the whole gameplay and the story and whatever happens in the game is kind of similar. As you could see, I tried to enter one of the castles in this world of Vaughn, the world that we're adventuring in, and they wouldn't let me through. Begone, peasants. I didn't have a clue how to solve this issue. I didn't know if I was supposed to solve that very issue at this moment of the game. But we'll get there in this video as well. I kind of suspected that, and I'm dead. This is what happens a lot in this game. It's not very forgiving or very, let's say, there is a difficulty curve in a way that I might have mentioned it the last time, that the encounters you get in the overworld, which I will be describing in a little while, at least what I know of it. The encounters in the overworld mostly are supposed to be on your level, but first of all, there's fixed encounters at certain points in the overworld map, and I have not yet decided if those... I know that some of those are more difficult. Some seem to be on your level, some might even be like on an easier level encounter from the starting areas. I'm not quite sure. Maybe the fixed encounters are fixed in a way that some of them are like fixed to the overall level of the area, maybe. I'm not entirely certain how this works, but the problem with these encounters in this game is that the monsters themselves usually definitely try to scale to your level. For example, these slither beasts and rabbit jackals I'm fighting here. The screen is also, forgive me, the screen is somehow capped. The video capture was a bit botched some way, but it doesn't really matter in this game, to be honest. But yeah, these rabbit jackals and slither beasts, for example, they're very low level enemies. You fight them almost right at the start of the game, not immediately, but like from the second level onwards. Now I'm level 4. But the problem is that you might encounter like 6 of these guys, 10 of these guys, 15 of these guys, and there might be any kind of mixture of different monsters, and some of them are, even if they're like on level, they definitely are way more difficult. Some of the monsters deal massive party damage. Some of them deal massive, like, fire breath damage or something like that. Acid breath, whatever they have. And yeah, there's protection spells with the cleric, with the number 4, Lorien. I've yet to determine how much of a use they actually are. They seemingly give you, like, let's say, if you cast protection from poison, then your status screen might say you get plus 25% against poison, but what does that mean? I have no idea. The other castle, like you saw, they actually gave you a proper clue. You need a merchant pass to enter the castle. And as my options go in this game, as I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing, I've found exactly one quest in the starting town, or in the dungeons under the starting town. I'm to bring a scroll, a message of some sort, to I think it was a wizard in the town of Dusk. And I've yet to go there, but I have no other quests at all. And I suspect that I might get something else to do as well if I do find the aforementioned merchant pass. Where to find it? I am not quite sure, but I found out these recordings of me playing the game, they are not like continuous recordings of sessions one after the another, because first of all you die a lot in this game, like I mentioned before, so I won't be showing all of that in these videos. It would be really boring. It's boring enough as it is. And then again, it takes a lot of time to map these areas in this game. The overworld seems to be made up of grid areas of 16 by 16 squares, and you can find your location with the sorcerer location spell, first level spell, which I've used quite extensively actually. In the first video I wasn't sure if that's needed at all, but actually to really get a grip of what you're doing in the overworld, and later on as well be using the fly spell to get around much more easily. The location spell is actually quite useful. But I've mapped quite a lot of the overworld, at least I think. I'm not quite sure how much of there is, but I've mapped at least 4 or 5 almost complete of these 16 by 16 areas. And well, I know that there's many more because I know there's places I haven't visited yet. I know how to get there, but I haven't gone there yet. And these are like full grids, full mazes, no basically unused spaces in that 16 by 16 map. Some of the stuff is behind a secret door, some of it isn't, but anyway, there's lots of ground to cover if you want to see everything. And I've noticed that it seems that almost every 16 by 16 area has a couple of kind of secret places, hidden places, maybe like dungeons, maybe some hints, maybe some weird like NPCs who give you weird cryptic clues to something. I've written them all down. I kind of, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm suspecting that if I do follow the main quest, which I do suspect is the main quest, which I got from the starting town of Sorpigal, or underneath the town, which directs me to go to the town of Dusk. I'm suspecting that by following that I'll get somewhere in the main story, and but the problem here is then that like I said, you die a lot in this game, and it's a very, very, very grindy game. And as you can probably see from the fights, you don't really get, if you take the like easy fights, if you don't go out on a limb to risk your life to maybe get a bit more experience from each fight, you're not getting huge amounts of experience just by fighting these groups and groups of monsters, which probably could kill you anyway, even if you're on level, well, not definitely not every time like you just saw, but in general the grinding is very, very slow. You need thousands and thousands of experience points at this point of the game, even if I'm at only level 4, and it takes a long time. Now you could see, now I'm going to Dusk. I found from the first town like a secret place with the leprechaun. I can't remember if I talked about that in the first video, or the first narrated video, but the leprechaun could send me with a price of 1 gem, which are very ubiquitous in the game after the beginning. You need them for spells and all sorts of things. Yeah, and there's a kind of fast travel method to every major town in the game, which of there are 5. At some point I thought that there were 6, but there's 5. And you can see the numbers of the towns from the start menu. You can kind of cheat a bit, I guess. And yeah, now I'm in Dusk, which seems to be a ghost town, and there's quite nasty encounters here. Like it's such a weird game. In every town, regardless of where you go, you might get an encounter. I've had situations where I'm bruised and battered, coming from a couple of serious fights outside, entering the inn, and I immediately get an encounter in the inn and have to fight my way out of monsters. Not even like a bar fight or anything, but like skeletons and ghouls and whatnot. So it's a very, very dangerous place, it seems. Not for the faint of heart. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing right now in the game. Probably either consulting my map or creating the map. Like I told, the outside areas I've mapped very extensively where I've been there, because without mapping them you'll be so lost that you can't really do anything in this game. And the few dungeons I've been in, yes, but the towns themselves, I've noticed that I haven't mapped them all. I've been, at this point of the game, I've been only in 3, and at the end of this video we're going to go to the 4th one. But most of the towns are like empty space. Well, most of the game is empty space, to be honest, but most of the towns, they have like kind of houses and such, but most of them are empty, or they just have fixed random encounters, which is like nice for grinding out EXP, I guess, but it's, for some reason or the other, I'd rather go outside in this game. I don't know why. Maybe it looks a bit more varied than these like black and white tile walls. You can see watching these videos that a lot of the time spent in this game is spent in going back to the inn to save the game. It's really, really crucial that you do that almost after every 3 or 4 fights. Of course, depending a bit where you are, or if you have a very long way back or something like that, because it's very frustrating. The grinding is so slow anyway that when you die in the 5th encounter or 4th encounter, it's just so frustrating to start over again from the last save. So I've been doing that quite a lot. It's been taking maybe like at least maybe a 1/4 of my total playtime, which is now around 30 hours or something. Well, not at this video, like total I've played quite a bit after even this video. I think in this video it's maybe like 15 to 20 hours, probably, maybe, of which, like, these videos are an hour long or so, and they're cut from a lot of pieces, so I'd say there's a lot of downtime and a lot of time spent just to gain experience. As for equipment, I'm not so certain how much it really matters. It seems that armor really does matter, because I've found that unarmored guys get hit quite a lot. But as for the weapons, I'm not so sure yet. The weapons you find as loot, you might find something amazing, like much better things than you have. I have to admit that I've checked the weapon stats from the official hints book, because it's just, there's no information in the game, and as unwieldy or as tedious this game already is, I'm not going to spend any time on guessing at what weapon would be better than some other, like looking at the randomized damage numbers and thinking, I'm maybe doing more damage with my flambeurge than my great hammer or some such thing. No, that's way beyond the scope of these videos or my patience for this game. But the equipment, yeah, it's neither here or there. I can't really say how much it affects the game. Spells seem to be somewhat effective. They will become much more effective as my sorcerer gets to the 5th level, because then he gets access to fireball and lightning bolt in combat, and then outside of combat the aforementioned fly spell, and the game gets much easier. But as of now, I have to use my, I think it's like electric arrow or something, or magic missile or whatever it is. It's so oh, I'm dead again. Yeah, the dungeons beyond dusk, not for me at this point of the game. But there's a labyrinth in dusk, because I'm searching now for the guy who I'm supposed to bring the message scroll to from Sorpigal. And I don't remember if you can see it in this video or not, but it might have been at the bar in dusk or somewhere else, but I found a clue that says that the NPC I'm supposed to meet is in the maze at I think it said southeast in the maze or something like that. So I went to the maze to try to find him or her, and yeah, there was a lot of combat. Maze being a, well, not a really real maze, it was the maze part of that was quite easy actually, or is quite easy. But I didn't find the guy on my first try, I have to say that, because for some reason or the other my map was completely upside down, or the wrong way around, and I had to I'd been doing it, the whole map of Dusk, the town, completely like topsy-turvy, and I had to basically toss it and make another map, a new map, because I was thinking of my compass as like, well, it was mixed up all the time as I was making the first map. But even if I still wasn't, my guys are in 4th level, and I can say, like I said before, that it seemed that around this time, especially when I got the 5th level for the whole party, quite a bit of the combat dynamic changed, because then I suddenly was feeling much more powerful. There was definitely a uptick in how I could handle encounters, At this point, it's still quite well. I felt that every single encounter could mean in my demise. So I was actually quite happy. Well, you can see those guys are dead now. Well, yeah, this didn't go too well. Back to the temple, I guess. Fortunately, if you've got any treasure, any gold, which you will get if you survive this fight, you usually also get quite a bit of equipment to sell, or some random junk items. Healing your adventurers or getting them even resurrected is not too expensive at all in this game, at least at this point. I don't know if it goes up if you go up levels or something, but it usually costs something like a couple of hundred gold per character, so it's not too bad. It seems the recording is skipping around. Yeah, now I'm at the temple. Is somebody dead yet? I'm not sure. Maybe. Yeah, it's 200 gold for restoring health, which means that, yeah, getting a dead person to walk again. But it's handy because, well, death is a bit weird in this game, as is pretty much everything according to like modern sensibilities, I guess. Even to the sensibilities of 1986, I would say, to be honest. And maybe that's because this was still made by a kind of indie developer at the time, and maybe he thought to deliberately do it differently than a lot of others, or then it was just a fluke. But yeah, like you saw there, a couple of my party members had lost their life force, to put it that way, and it didn't cost me too much to get them back up on their feet again. And if you got like 1 or 2 dead guys, especially if if your healer or your sorcerer is dead a bit later in the game, that might pose a proper problem, especially the sorcerer. But apart from that, you can get by 1 or 2 encounters with a couple of dead guys and then just get back to the temple. It's not such a big deal every single time if somebody drops dead, like literally. But then again, if like half of your party is dead, then it starts becoming much more difficult. And I guess, I don't know yet, or I haven't checked if there's like a resurrect spell or something. I'm suspecting there would be, because I'm thinking later in the game, in longer dungeons or more difficult dungeons, it's way too much hassle to like, well, or it doesn't even work, because the dungeons kind of reset every time you rest, or everything kind of resets every time you rest. So let's say you're in a dungeon and there's traps and fixed encounters. You go to clear them, but at any point, I think it works like that if you exit the dungeon and you come back, those or rest, those traps and encounters are reset. I'm not exactly quite sure how that works, because sometimes, now that I think of it, sometimes it seems to work and sometimes it doesn't. At least the outdoor encounters reset if you enter the inn. Oh, actually, yeah, I think that's it. If you enter the inn and you save and you exit, because, oh yeah, no, we're at the Forbidden Crypt. I didn't go there. I kind of thought that that's not for me at this point of the game, and I was quite sure that the person I was looking for is not in the Forbidden Crypt. That's not kind of the feeling I got, and I was right, because my map was the wrong way around. But yeah, Yeah, now I kind of got it. If you go in and save your game thus, and then exit the inn, everything resets because you kind of go to the main menu of the game in the inn, and then you have to choose your characters again and so on and so forth. So yeah, so you could do those dungeons if they're too dangerous to rest in. You could get out, rest, get back, and I suppose the encounters or the traps wouldn't reset. I'll have to try that out actually, because I'm not exactly sure if it works like that. I hope it does, because I've been kind of afraid of the dungeons at this point, because they actually managed to feel a bit oppressive in this game. There's weird atmosphere here. There's no music, there's no nothing, there's hardly any graphics to speak of. Mostly like text screens. And, well, there's silhouettes of the monsters which are like reused, recycled between the different monsters. But anyway, but there's some kind of weird atmosphere going on here, definitely. I wouldn't have played this even this long if there wasn't something there. And all these towns, they're supposed to be underground in the lore for some reason which is not told anywhere. Well, nothing is told anywhere in this game. Oh yeah, no, here's the elf, Telgoran. I was supposed to bring him or her the scroll, and I did. And I got quite a lot of experience from that, 2,500 points per character. Considering that these fights get me like maybe 250 per fight or something, that's like 10 fights right there. And you die like every third fight, I'd say, on average, in this game at this point at least. And even later, actually. So those quests are quite important, I'd say. And that got me thinking. I knew something which isn't told in the manual or anywhere else in this game, but I had come across some place or something in the internet which said that there's optional quests in this game which are related to the castles. So, now that I've got the next thing for my main quest, the elf there in the maze, he or she, I can't remember if it's a he or she. I should have checked the check the description beforehand if that says anything. But anyway, that NPC gave me yet another clue for the main quest, which seems to revolve around getting into all of these different cities, because I heard that there's twins in the cities of Portsmouth and Algery, the last two cities, incidentally, which I've yet to visit. And obviously, well, not obviously, but I'd guess that those twins can help me to get forward in my main quest. But seeing as it seems that these quests give quite a load of experience, and I've heard that the castles somehow relate to optional quests, then it stands to reason that I should try to get passage into one of those castles. And that would be, it seems, with the merchant pass mentioned at the early part of this same playthrough video. So, now that I got my main quest going one step forward, and I'm for some reason sitting in the blacksmith's doing something, it seems, selling stuff. No, the next order of business would be to try to locate that mentioned merchant pass. And I had actually run across, in my earlier adventures mapping the countryside, so to say, or the outworld, I had run across, well, not too far from the starting city of Sorpigal, I had run across in the forest a couple of like abandoned merchant wagons, and you could search them, but at the time the encounters which seemed to be fixed at those merchant wagons, they were way too difficult, and I decided that if they're important I might do that at a later time, and I kind of guessed that, yeah, if I need to find a merchant pass, it's gonna be somewhere over there. And now my characters are getting to 5th level, or they are already on the 5th level, if not. So now it probably would be a time to at least try to go to fight those encounters at the merchant caravans and try to see if I could procure myself a proper merchant pass. But before that, it seems I'm trying to explore the deserts a bit, and well, mapping this was impossible, I can tell you that. You kind of, yeah, you're lost, you get, I think you get randomly thrown everywhere, or because there's no compass, you're just, either you're just turned around or whisked into a random direction, or even like booted randomly somewhere in the map. And I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what the sandstorms are doing. Later on, I found out that they just straight up kill your characters randomly, it seems. And then, even much later, I found out that walking in the desert actually costs you food. And at one point I was thinking, well, why are my characters dying? Because I checked, they're not taking like constant damage from sandstorms or anything, or from that it's hot message. But only later I found out that, yeah, that it's hot message when you walk into the desert, it just takes away your food supplies. And then you, if you don't know that, you're suddenly at 0 and you're trying to walk there, and yeah, and then your guys start dying, obviously. This desert is something we will certainly get back to, I think in the next video probably, because I've played through it already, or at least some of it, and it's quite important for the game in the end. But as of now, it's way too difficult, or I can't really do anything here. So I just messed around for a bit, died quite a lot of times outside of this video, and then found my way back to the forest north of Sorpigal, and then here's these merchant caravans. Some of the encounters are easier, like one ogre, that's not too bad, he hits like a truck, but yeah, I guess 6 adventurers, nah, that's not too bad. But at the beginning, when I was too low level, there's like 5 trolls or something, and they can like decimate my guys with 1 or 2 hits, so that was way too much. And at times this game tells you that, alright, you're going to the right direction, but you're too low level, go grind some more. And I feel like that's the game. There's encounters, I mean fixed encounters, which take you forward either in the story or in optional content, and then you'll find out if it's too hard or if you can go through that. And yeah, it's grind. And then when we get to the optional quests, which we will, which were quite ridiculous at the start, I really have to say. Then there's there's a couple of types of quests, let's say, or two types I've encountered thus far, and they're not very complicated. they're not puzzles. I mean, I guess, or I kind of know that there are puzzles in this game, but I don't know if they're mandatory in any way, and I'm not really sure if they're really kind of puzzles or if they're just, let's say, there's quite a lot of like pure adventure games from the 80s and from the 90s, at least from the start of the 90s, well, especially in the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, and actually even later 80s as well. Well, especially when the genre of adventure games was quite young, there was not much logic always behind of what you were doing in the game. So quite oftentimes you would like go around, pick up things, come across something you couldn't, like something you can't solve or open or go forward through or whatever it is. You can't get to the next screen, and then you have to do something. And sometimes it was logical, like, yeah, you got some items in your inventory which are quite clearly used for whatever you need to do. But then again, I think quite often it was just like trying every single thing that you could. You have like 6 items in your inventory, you try them one by one on everything you'll find, and then for some reason at some point dropping the gem to a hole in a tree or something like that suddenly gets you forward, and there's no real way of finding that out or like figuring that out on yourself. And even if Might and Magic is not an adventure game as such, or not really at all, it's a computer role-playing game, an early computer role-playing game, which is like 99% focused on combat and experience, gaining experience, and, well, exploration, mapping, that can be said. But I'm playing this game and getting slowly forward, bit by bit, kind of baby steps, sometimes maybe finding something very, well, not necessarily cryptic, but like a very small piece of information about what to do next, or what I'm even doing here in this world with these characters. And I'm kind of getting the feeling this might have more to do with the 4th part of this series coming up later, but it's kind of relevant even now. I'm slowly getting the feeling that this game works with that weird kind of adventure game logic, in that way that you're not even supposed to know what you're doing here. Certainly, like I said in the first narrated video, oh wow, merchant pass, now we're getting somewhere, yeah, and that wasn't even like with an encounter, it was just lying in the ground. So, yeah, in the end I didn't even need the levels. Well, if I got lucky. I don't know if that spot is fixed or random. Well, knowing this game, actually, I'm quite sure it's fixed. But anyway, yeah, coming back to the subject of what you're what do you know about what you're supposed to do in this game? Like I said in the first video, or the first narrated video, the game actually kind of goes out of its way to not tell you what's going on. It doesn't say anything in the manual, doesn't say anything in the first town, or it hasn't really said anything, even if I'm advancing the main quest bit by bit. The manual still says, you've got to find the secret of the inner sanctum, nothing else, literally. It's like a couple of sentences. And nothing that I've done thus far in the game has pointed me in any way or any form towards any tangible direction. Now, Lord Hacker speaks, your services are needed. Bring me garlic. I literally burst out laughing when I saw this. I was just like, yes, finally, after hours and hours and hours of trudging through piles of corpses and resurrecting my characters and loading my game every third fight, and seriously spending like a lot of time getting even to this point, and I'm thinking I'm still not literally anywhere. Then I get my first proper kind of quest that a lord finally gives me a proper task. Bring me garlic. Oh my lord. Yeah, that's some heroic questing right there. But, well, if the Lord has tasked me to bring him garlic, then I better do just that. And I'm not sure if it's even shown in this video. You can buy garlic from one of the shops in the towns. I think it was the first town even. And then there were more quests from the same lord. Bring me wolfsbane, or belladonna or whatever. And then I actually had some of that even already in my inventory from some encounters, like loot. And you could buy that as well. Some of that some of the quest items you had to buy from Dusk, some from Sorpigal, some from somewhere else. But luckily I did those fetch quests first because they were so easy, and they were a lot of experience, like thousands of experience points for bringing that guy his garlic. I don't know if he's doing like some pasta or something, but anyway, that was really useful. That got me really forward in my grind or quest for more levels. And then I actually started getting some more meaningful quests. The next quest he gave me after bringing all those spices for his salad or something, I finally got a quest to bring him the head of Medusa, which actually sounded quite dangerous, and it sounds like a fixed encounter somewhere, maybe in a dungeon, and I'm yet to find that Medusa. But I did find some other castles which are not shown in this video, might be shown in some later videos. There are more than those two close to Erliquin, and they give you different sorts of quests. Some of them are kind of like scouting ones. They tell you to go to some specific location in the world, which is usually a dungeon, but not always, not necessarily. And it might also be a thing in a dungeon, like they don't say it, I think, I'm not sure, but if you're mapping your dungeons with diligence, you'll find all sorts of things like shrines and whatnot, fountains, statues, all sorts of like basic dungeony things. And some of those castle lords might task you with, let's say you get to find the shrine or altar of this and that. They don't tell you where it is, but then you start searching through the dungeons, beneath the towns for example, or in some caves in the outworld, and you might luckily find them. And of course you're getting experience while you're doing that, fighting all the time. You're fighting all the time. Well, it's a fighting game, obviously, and quite a lot of the CRPGs at this time were like this, in good and in bad. I mean, 1986. I do understand that this was a game made by like one or two, or well, let's say a very very small team of people, mostly by one guy, and for the Apple II, if I remember correctly, originally, and so if you have a huge world at the time, this kind of pseudo 3D world, dungeon crawl world, which admittedly this game does have. The Outworld is big, I don't even know how big it is, and there's lots and lots of locations, dungeons, towns, castles, whatnot. There's actually quite a huge amount of places to explore in this game, even if most of them are empty, or most of the squares you'll explore in this game are empty. Still, it's actually a real effort to try to find them all, explore them all, and I suppose it was quite the effort to actually code this whole thing, mostly by yourself. So I'm not saying that there should be anything else than it is. But then again, for 86, the writing or the whatever of a plot there is, it could have been handled differently. I'll just say it like that, let's say. But I don't know if it was by choice or if it was for some other reason. Now we're close to the city of Portsmouth, which is another one of those main quest cities, well, another city in general, and you can see we're by the coast, sea coast, apparently, which is quite nice. It actually brings a little more character to the whole world. It gives you a sense of size, or a sense of, like, there's something else than forests or mountain corridors. Well, there was the desert already, so that kind of was an indication of that there's going to be different kinds of areas or locales, which is really nice. It makes the world more believable. It makes it seem bigger, even if big is not always good. But still, it has been a huge effort to make this game at the time with the resources that the makers of this game had, and I can appreciate that. I've played some of the later Might and Magic games at the time they came out in the mid-90s or late 90s, and at that time I wasn't quite so sure what to think about them, honestly, in terms of like the world building and how it felt to be in that world and to play those games. But playing this one and knowing how to appreciate older games for what they are, I can honestly appreciate this one in quite many ways, even if it's... But as you can probably see, I'm not quite so sure about what would be the point of documenting playing through this whole game of Might and Magic Book 1. As of now, I am quite certain I will play through this game. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing much of the optional content. I've done some of it, but I have no idea. I'm thinking I'll try to stick mostly to following the main quest and see where that leads me, and if I come across something too difficult, I'll just start grinding again for the optional content. I don't know how long this game will be if I play it like that, but as you can see, well, there isn't really much to show off here or document here. It's mostly text screens, and now I'm moving, for example, but you can't see it because there's no sound. for moving. There's nothing, it's just a long corridor. Long corridor in a dungeon with teleporters and things that you don't even really know where you're going. Standard dungeon crawling fare, to be sure, yeah. But with the user interface and system as primitive as this, it's sometimes not very fun. Weirdly, I don't like the dungeons in this game as much as I do just exploring the outworld and finding out what's where and what's what. The dungeons seem to me more tedious. They're more dangerous for sure, but they're also kind of bleak, even with the graphics. I'm not sure where that comes from, but I'm not vibing with them very well at the moment, at least. But I'm guessing that at some point of the game I need to change that attitude quite a bit, because it seems that I'll be directed more towards certain dungeons, at least. I've found quite a lot of them. I've entered only a couple of them. I haven't explored more than one, I think, at this stage of like playing through this video, and maybe the next one. Yeah, I'm thinking I will do at least one more video narrated, because there's some quite important actually plot points there, and the story is finally like getting somewhere, and somewhere interesting actually. And it seems that I'm finally kind of finding out in the next video what I'm supposed to be doing in this game in the end. But most of the playing is just looking at this same combat screen, pushing attack and cast this and that spell, which you can't even see which spell I'm casting, or you can see the numbers, but there's no like effects or anything. It doesn't even say which spell you're casting. Like I said in the last video, you just cast a spell, not like Illuron casts Fireball. It's just Illuron casts a spell. Which, yeah, there's things in this game which do get the atmosphere going, and which do like help to create the world around you, and help to in a way maybe immerse yourself in that world, or even maybe feel like you're actually adventuring there. And then there's quite a lot of things which just could have been done better. Like that spell thing, for example. Would be so easy just to right there you cast Fireball instead of you cast a spell. If that's a point of just not enough memory, then the game has been squeezed really, really, really tight. And that might be, I don't know, it's possible with these. If it was made for the Apple II with like 8-bit machines, it's certainly possible that there was actually no more room for any more like changing text. But, well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you could have cut something else then. I'm not sure. All these traps, like for example, there's like million different descriptions of traps. Acid sprays, lightning bolts, death rays, spikes, saw blades, whatever. There's like a multitude of different trap descriptions. They all seem to sort of do the same thing. Well, some of them poison you, some of them blind you and whatnot, but I'd rather have taken like those spell descriptions than, for example, all those different trap descriptions. Or these descriptions for the different towns, which actually do help build something. The towns have, if you bother to read the descriptions for the inns and blacksmiths and temples and other places. All the towns have like similar services, or they're exactly the same services. But apart from the prices and obviously the blacksmiths selling different things and whatnot. But anyway, if you bother to read the descriptions, then the towns have a bit of a different character. Portsmouth, for example, is a town populated only by, it seems, extremely beautiful females. Dusk is a ghost town. All the customer service people are ghosts, at least. I think the inn was even like deserted or something. And yeah, this Portsmouth, for example, this is the first place in the game, and maybe the only place, I don't know, which did make it matter than what your gender is. Like outside of these establishments, when you wander around, I think you can see it shortly, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, in those cross sections in the city, you can see that all the male characters take damage if you walk through them. So that's that, I guess. That's something. All my party happens to be male because something said that you should choose either everyone to be male or everyone to be female. It didn't say why, but, well, then I did an all-male party at that moment. And it seems that I'm paying for it right now. Have to rest for quite a bit walking around this town, trying to find the other twin Zam, which I just found a clue saying where that twin is related to the main quest. I still don't know how it's, or what they're supposed to tell me, or what this whole main quest thingy is. First got a scroll from my wizard, then I got that scroll to that elf, who didn't explain anything to me. He or she just said that, okay, you gotta find these twins for reasons unknown. I'm really hoping those twins will tell me the reason, because it's, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how far I am in this game. I have no idea what the level, well, I don't know if there's a level cap, but what the levels, or what's high level and what's low level. There's 7 maybe levels of spells, or is there 8? I'm not sure. But if you get a spell level every second level, then that would make like 14 or 15 like a high level character, because you don't get any more spells after that. Obviously you get HP and SP, but yeah, I don't know. That's another thing that remains to be seen, like so much more of everything else in this game from the get-go. Centaurs, I hate centaurs. They always cast sleep. Every single one of them usually does cast sleep. And if they manage to put your spellcasters to sleep, then you're quite out of luck. Fortunately, I have those fireballs and all that kind of thing at this stage, so I probably can manage if I remember correctly, but still, they don't hit too hard. But if they come with some other nasty monsters, well, rabbit jackals aren't nasty at this point, but centaurs might make the encounter very annoying. There's some certain monsters which are very annoying like that, spellcasters. Centaurs, druids, hags which cast paralyze, what else? All sorts of things. Someone casts blindness, and on later levels you can cure them, but it takes SP, it takes time, and it's just annoying. I haven't tried silence yet, but silence, if I remember correctly, only affects one monster, and there's usually like 6 or 7 of them, and every single one can try to cast sleep, so I don't know. There's quite, as I talked about last time, there's quite a lot of spells in this game which seem to be, or seem to border useless. They do have their niche use cases, but I don't know. Well, that's standard fare with CRPGs. Always has been and probably always will be. Even in modern ones, I mean. There's always some weird spells you can use for like challenge runs or speed runs or whatnot, but if you're playing as intended, let's say, then usually like at least half of the spells in any given game are completely useless. Alright, we're approaching the end of the video. I am Zam, astral brother of Zom, an only living male residing in Portsmouth. My clue is C15. Well, that's obviously a kind of map coordinate thingy. But yeah, this was the second narrated part of this video series. I hope you liked it. It's kind of meandering and rambling and whatnot, but at least these have been fun to do, and I intend to make more of these in the future. Not only of Might and Magic, probably of some Ultima and some this and some that, but thank you for listening if you did listen this far or watched this far, and see you on the next one. Bye bye!